Is it on?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas. I was born and raised here. I am a cancer survivor, and I'm very proud to say that.
Yes. And I'm very proud to say that Emma is my friend. We met when I was in the hospital, and this woman comes bearing gifts. I think every time I've seen you, you've had a gift for me. It's just so sweet, so sweet. So, you told us your story. What was your diagnosis?
It's called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma follicular.
And what does that mean?
Follicular means that it's small cells, they are indolent, they are slow growing, and that it's the kind of cancer I will live with, but I won't die from it.
Okay. And when were you diagnosed?
In May of 2015.
Okay. And were you sick before then?
Absolutely not.
No?
No. I went to an emergency room in February for abdominal pains, and they did a CT and noticed the enlarged lymph nodes, and so the process went from there.
Oh my goodness. So how were you told? Where were you? What was said?
Actually, I was in my car at the bank, and the only reason the doctor called and gave me the news over the phone was because I knew he had the report and I wasn't going to see him for 2 weeks. And I couldn't stand waiting 2 weeks to get the results.
Right.
And so he told me while I was in my car at the bank, and after I got the information, I drove directly to his office to get a copy of the report.
And was that the doctor that we have in common or had
Yes,
in common?
yes, yes.
And we talked about in a previous interview that you can fire your oncologist. If you don't like them,
Yeah.
you could fire them.
Yeah.
We have decided that neither of us really cared for this doctor. And then, so after, what was your initial reaction, or what were you thinking?
When I got the diagnosis, I needed to find out everything about it. And that's not for everyone, but for me, getting on my iPad, on the internet, I found out all the information I possibly could so I'd be ready for that first face-to-face visit with lots of questions.
Yeah. I don't do that because
I
I'm
know.
afraid of the internet. So I think it's interesting, and I just want to ask a good question about that. And I was going to ask a stupid question, like, did you find that really helpful, or did you
Yes.
find negative things?
I didn't put a lot of stock in the negative stuff, but what it did for me, it prepared me for what I might be facing, and the ability to just ask good questions.
Yeah. So when you found the doctor that you love, what was the prescribed treatment for you?
Well, it was definitely not what the first doctor recommended. They wanted me to go into chemo immediately, and I met with that doctor on Thursday. The following Monday, I was at Methodist Hospital getting all sorts of pre-chemo testing, and on that Tuesday, I had my first treatment.
Do you remember what kind of chemo that you had?
Yes, it's called R-CHOP.
R-CHOP? And did you have any reactions to that? Or?
The first session, at the end of the chemo, I would take prednisone for 5 days. Well, the first day after the prednisone, I had a burning sensation on my tongue, and I got what's called thrush, which is a white coating on your tongue. But after that, the subsequent chemo treatments, all I experienced was fatigue and occasional shortness of breath, but that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's good to hear that because I
Yes.
haven't had a lot of reaction either, and I think people are so fearful of chemo. I know I was fearful.
Yeah.
So it's not always all that
And
bad.
you know, I was not fearful. I was excited because they were going to do something.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be a watch and wait for 6 months.
Right.
And so I went in there happy as a lark. But I didn't start the chemo journey happy as a lark.
Right. Right. And I remember you saying that everything revolved around your treatments and
That was my life. Doctor's appointments, clinic appointments, chemo treatments. And I just want to say I opted not to have my husband be involved in taking me to chemo because he was doing a great job as a caregiver, and I wanted to give him that gift where he didn't have to be there. Because the chemo I had was 5, 6, 7 hours long because there were so many bags of chemicals, and they could only give it to you one at a time. So it was an all-day venture.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was a great caregiver.
He was. And I wasn't sure because that doesn't come by him naturally, but he stepped up to the plate and was there at every appointment, and he cooked, he cleaned, and I'm going, I'm liking this. I could learn to live with this all the time.
Right,
so.
right. And your family, your extended family, your children, do they have a...
You know, early on, as difficult as it's always been for me to ask for something for myself, I did reach out to my family, and I wanted their prayers. I wanted them to be part of it. I also had these T-shirts made
I love those.
for my family and some friends. And I also reached out via a large email to bunches of people that I knew cared about me and asked that they be my prayer warriors. And they came through. They came through, and they would text and check on me and see how I'm doing. I had friends bring food over, and because they wanted to do something.
Right.
And I said, you know, it would be such a treat for my husband to actually have a home-cooked meal. And so they would bring over meals that would last several days, and that really blessed him and me. So.
But did you have to resign from a job, or were you...
Oh, no, I was gleefully unemployed and retired.
And what were you retired from?
I was in education for 35 years.
What would you say was the greatest challenge of that journey during treatment?
Oh, during treatment. Gosh, I was so peaceful about it. I really can't think of what was difficult. It was just what my life was at the time.
A lot of people would say, how is she saying that? How were you so peaceful?
Well, after I got the diagnosis, I spent 2 weeks crying. I cried every day. And it could be any time during the day. It didn't matter what I was doing. I would just burst out crying. And every morning I have a time with the Lord. And one morning I just said, Lord, I can't do this. I cannot live my life crying and being sad. I want to be peaceful. I want to be happy. I want to go on with my life and let this be an inconvenience. And I can't explain it, but there was like a warmth that came over me, and from that day on, I woke up and it was just another day and I felt great. And even if it was pouring, raining outside, I'd say, "Good morning, Lord. It's a glorious day. It's great to be alive." And so I embraced the journey, and a dear friend had me read a book called Finding Joy in the Journey. And when I read that, I said, you know, that's me. That's what I want to do. So my sub-mantra became Finding Joy in the Journey.
Yeah. Which
So-
is how this was named, you
Yeah.
know, the Cancer Contradiction,
Yeah.
Finding Joy in the Journey.
Yeah.
From that bracelet you gave me.
Yes.
It said
yeah,
that on there.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. So it sounds like that was a relatively easy sort of period?
You
or?
know, it was, and I think it's because I did embrace it, and in my mind, that's what I would do in 2015. I would go through this journey that I did not ask for. I've got so much more medical information than I ever wanted to know. But since it was there and it presented itself, I just wanted it to be as peaceful as possible, and pretty much it was. And I did some things that also helped me have some kind of control. And one of the things that I did was I started journaling. I had never journaled in my life, but I started journaling every day, and I did that through the end of the year, and I haven't really journaled since I got a diagnosis that I was in remission, but it was something that where I was able to put those feelings that I had on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And the other thing I did was I created a notebook. And this notebook has every test I have ever been given since I started this cancer journey, all my labs, all my MRIs,
Wow.
my blood work. And it's just a compilation of everything that happened. It's got all my receipts when I would go to MD Anderson in Houston at the hotel, and I just do want to give one little plug to MD Anderson. For me, it was a lifesaver. Those people are so focused on the patient, and you feel welcomed and loved, and I continue to go there for all of my testing and retesting, but my doctor in San Antonio gets copy of that testing, and then he'll do whatever treatment's necessary here. And so yeah, loved MD Anderson. It was worth every mile, every minute we spent getting there and back. So
I was wondering if you would mind talking about your port.
yes.
Because we've never
My
seen one
former-
of those on
well-
the Cancer Contradiction.
Well,
What-
you know, it's not there.
Okay.
I just had it removed on Wednesday, which was
Okay.
5 days ago. This is what's left, a little incision.
Okay.
But the port was probably the size of a quarter, and it was embedded right here, and there was a very small flexible line that went up here over my collarbone into a major vein. And when I would go to chemo, they would stick one needle into this port, and then they would have finger feeders off of that where they plugged in the bags of the chemo drugs. I had it put in because they could do labs with it, they could do anything. The one thing that saved me was that it's kind of rubbery, and so they have to kind of push hard to get through the rubber. to get into the port, and that could be very painful. So they gave me lidocaine cream to put on it,
Yeah.
and it would numb it. I wouldn't feel anything.
Yeah.
So I finally had it removed because A, I'm in remission. B, if at some point down the road I relapse, the protocol chemo would not be in a liquid chemical form, it'd be a pill form, so I don't need the port anymore.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this page is about finding joy in the journey, and I know you talked a little bit about that, but can you talk more about the blessings that have come?
There have been incredible blessings, and for me, part of the joy was making people at the infusion center, and in the infusion center is the clinic where you go to actually get the chemo treatments. I would bring home-baked goods.
I can imagine.
I would go around and visit with some of the patients, or, you can tell when someone is very sick and they really feel bad. So I didn't go up to them all smiley and bubbly, but I'd come up and I would just gently touch them and ask them if it'd be okay if I prayed for them.
That's so great.
So that was the joy I was able to give. I got joy from getting feedback from my family, and encouragement and feedback and encouragement from the prayer warriors, and meeting new people through our church cancer group that we have on Facebook. Audrey is one of those sweet ladies that I met, and another one is actually a lady that I knew years ago that used to be my boss. And then the third lady is not a cancer patient. She was a caregiver for her husband who recently passed, but she gave me a wealth of information about chemo. And the first thing I remember her telling me was about chemo brain. I had never even heard the term, so man, I got on my iPad, Googled it, and found out everything I could about chemo brain.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I had signs of it.
I got it.
You are forgetful.
Oh my goodness.
You get a little confused sometimes, and now I try to tell people if I'm forgetful, oh, it's my chemo brain, but I'm reminded I'm not on chemo anymore, so that doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, we have about one more minute. Is there anything that you would like to share that could encourage people? Or,
Well, for me, my cancer diagnosis was pretty common, and the research has done a great job of getting people in remission. And I just wanted to say I had 6 treatments every 3 weeks, and in 4.5 months I went in remission. So it wasn't a lot for me. It was not a lifelong or a year after year.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see. I could go for years and not have it.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends, but yeah,
Those hands.
it is. But I want to stay involved with people who are in the cancer journey, and even when you're in remission, you're still on the journey. Your life before cancer is no longer. This is the new normal.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's an honor.
Mwah. Bye-bye. So do you think it took it?